I was 12 when it happened. My parents had gone out for dinner, and I was home alone for the first time. It was a Friday night, and I decided to watch TV in the living room. Around 8 p.m., I heard a faint scratching sound at the back door. At first, I thought it was just a branch, but the scratching continued, and then it turned into a low, deliberate knock. Froze. Probably just a neighbor, I told myself. But then I remembered. My neighbors were out of town for the weekend. My heart started racing. I grabbed the baseball bat from my closet and approached the door slowly. As I peered through the peephole, I saw nothing. No shadow, no movement. Just the faint echo of knocking. I opened the door slightly, and that's when I saw muddy footprints leading up the porch, stopping right at the door. Image 4. Footsteps in the backyard. I quickly locked it, but for the next hour I could hear footsteps pacing in the backyard, moving closer, then retreating like someone was watching me. Image 4. Footsteps in the backyard. I quickly locked it, but for the next hour I could hear footsteps pacing in the backyard, moving closer, then retreating like someone was watching me. This happened to a college student named Lisa. She lived alone in a small apartment and often worked late at night. One evening, she was home alone watching a movie when her phone rang. She looked at the caller ID. It was her own number. Confused, she answered. Her blood ran cold. She hung up immediately, thinking it was a prank. But the calls kept coming, every 10 minutes, sometimes 5. The voice never said more than, "I see you." Terrified, she called the police, who traced the number, only to find it was her own landline. Then she heard something that made her heart nearly stop, the sound of her front door opening. The lock was still on the inside. The police arrived minutes later, but there was no one there. Every night after that, she triple-checked her locks and never ignored a strange sound again. Mark was 14, home alone on a weekend. He was playing video games when he noticed the hallway light flicker. Thinking it was the old wiring, he ignored it. But then he saw a shadow move across the wall, a human-shaped shadow that didn't belong to him. He called out, "Hello." No response. The shadow didn't move like a person walking. It just glided along the walls, silent and slow. Mark's dog started barking uncontrollably, pacing back and forth. When he tried to grab a flashlight, the shadow disappeared, but the sound of footsteps continued, coming from the basement. Summoning all his courage, he slowly descended the basement stairs. The light from his phone illuminated the empty room. But on the far wall, he saw it, handprints smudged across the dust leading up the stairs. And when he looked behind him, there was a single dark figure standing at the bottom of the stairs, staring. Then it vanished. Samantha, a 17-year-old high school student, was home alone while her parents went on a weekend trip. Around midnight, she heard a knock at the front door. Peeking through the peephole, she saw nothing. Thinking it was someone delivering a package, she ignored it. But then she heard it again and again. She called her neighbor to stay on the phone while she tried to ignore it. The knocking turned into soft scratching, then a low whispering, so faint she couldn't understand the words. She hid in her closet, shaking, clutching her cat for comfort. Hours passed. When morning finally came, she found muddy handprints on the outside of her window, on the side where no one could reach from the ground. Whoever, or whatever, had been outside had been watching her all night. This last story is from a man named Daniel. One night, home alone, he went to brush his teeth in the bathroom. As he looked in the mirror, he thought he saw a figure standing behind him. He spun around, nothing there. When he looked back at the mirror, the figure was gone. Thinking he was imagining things, he laughed nervously and went back to the bedroom. Minutes later, he heard soft breathing coming from the bathroom. Heart pounding, he approached slowly. The bathroom was empty, but the mirror had something written on the fogged glass. I see you. Daniel moved out the next day. He never found out who or what had been in his apartment that night, but he still wakes up in cold sweats whenever he brushes his teeth alone.